welcome back to the Daily Lift. I hear a lot, especially these days, and how the economy is. Well, I can't make it to Bible class, I can't make it to church because, I gotta work. And, I empathize with people who have been put in those situations, or have found themselves in those situations, or have put themselves in those situations. However, it is our job as Christians to seek first God's kingdom. We are to be about our Father's business. So, in my opinion, and how I see the scriptures lay out, that God intends us to set the standard and set the tone, not us conform to the world's standards. That we are to be in the world and not of the world. And so what do I mean by this when it comes to work? I am reminded of the story of Daniel. And in his youth, he was able to, by his resolve, change the policy of an entire nation. And so, at this time, in the history of Judah, we have Babylon ruling most of the known world. And King Nebuchadnezzar was taking over everything. And because of Judah and Israel's idolatry and their constant choosing to worship the gods, the foreign gods of all the nations around, God gave them up to Nebuchadnezzar. Nebuchadnezzar pretty much slaughters everybody except for the choice men and women, and he brings them to Babylon to assimilate them into their culture. And Daniel, and as we know them, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, these 4 Hebrew boys, they find themselves as young men in a foreign country with little to no ability to do things on their own. And they were to be raised up and trained for 3 years in their culture, in their language, in their history, and then put into the king's service. And part of this, they were supposed to be eating and drinking things that it appears would have violated the Mosaic law. And so Daniel resolved to not defile himself, meaning he was not going to eat the things that would cause him to violate the ordinances that God has laid out in the book of Moses, the law of Moses. And so Daniel goes to the head guy, Ashpenaz, and he says, hey, look, let me propose something to you. Feed me vegetables, only water, and for 10 days. And you come back and see how we look and how we're doing after 10 days, and you judge from there what you want to do. And so Ashpenaz says, okay, I'll do this. And 10 days later, they are actually looking healthier and more fit than the others who were on the king's delicacies and the king's wine. And so Ashpenaz makes a decree that he removes all of their food and gives them the same diet that he was given to the Hebrew boys. And so the point here is that Daniel made a decision beforehand. Daniel resolved that he wasn't going to violate God's will, that he was going to do what God says regardless of what was going to happen. And we see this happen later when he's faced with death in the lion's den. We also see this later on with the Hebrew boys, his friends, when they are thrown into the fiery furnace. However, in this story here, we see that they rose in ranks in leadership and all wisdom, maybe by miraculous means through the Holy Spirit, but I believe because they first trusted in God, and that they first sought out the one who supplies wisdom and who supplies strength. So for those who may be thinking, well, I have this fill in the blank excuse for not being able to make it to worship services, to Bible study, and to assemble with Christians. Consider Daniel. Consider how God delivered him time and again, because Daniel leaned on God. He said, God, I'm going to seek you first in your kingdom, in your righteousness, and I know that you will supply all my needs. So I hope that this brings you encouragement. If you struggle with making it to a Bible class, to worship services, think about Daniel. Think about how he changed policies and he made sacrifices, and God looked out for him.